Welcome to the Small Steps, Big Wins podcast. I'm dedicated to helping you take control of your life. Together, we'll explore practical tips, expert advice, and inspiring stories to help you overcome obstacles and achieve your goals. Making small changes is possible and can lead to big results. Are you ready? Let's go do this. Dr. Amanda, welcome. You know, I had to hit record at some point because the two of us, when we start talking, you know.
Yes, I know.
Let's just say, hey, welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're back again. You are a repeat because you're a very special person and I totally enjoy talking to you. So you have some amazing things going on in your business and your life. So I'm going to let you share that stuff and we will go from there.
Yeah, I'm so psyched to be here again. I love talking about all things law of attraction, especially applied to life, business, how you can manifest everything you want. And the reason that this is so important is because most people fumble around and think that they're out of control and that the world is happening to them. I see this so often where we get caught in a victim story and we think, you know, this has happened to me and this has happened to me. And then we keep retelling the story, which causes us to keep replaying the story. And so I love to teach people what the principles are behind the law of attraction so that they can actually use them and then start to play with it and experiment with it and test it and then prove to themselves that, like, oh, I've got the magic wand to the rules of the game of life and I can actually start winning and feeling like I'm in control of my reality. And so, yeah, let's jam out.
Perfect.
On that.
Love it. I love it. Yeah, let's start with that. If somebody's listening, they're like, what's this law of attraction stuff? I've heard it, don't know what it is. So why don't you start there and just explain the basic principles of the law of attraction and how they apply? Or how you can apply them. So let's go there.
So the trick that a lot of people don't know is that the law of attraction is a combination of two things: manifestation and magnetism. And so the manifestation has to do with both your conscious and your unconscious thoughts. So an example, conscious manifestation would be me going to get my cup of coffee in the morning. That's a very simple example of going, hey, I wanted a cup of coffee this morning and I went to the kitchen. Everything was there because I had in the past set into motion that I would want coffee in the morning or tea or whatever it is. So I bought the coffee pot, I bought the coffee. And so every day I can keep having that reality. It's a very simple example of manifesting something. When you want to go on a trip, you have a conscious thought, I want to go on a trip, and you start making plans for it, and then you manifest it into reality. So it's a 3-step process to, number one, you decide with certainty and clarity what you want. So certainty is really important and clarity. So you just decide what you want. Number two, you take steps in the direction of what you want. So action is evidence of belief. So once you start taking action, you know that you believe what you want is possible for you. So you'll always know that if you're in a state of procrastination, you don't believe that it's possible to get, or you'd be in automatic action. So procrastination is a sign of a lack of belief. And then number three, you let the universe bring the opportunity to you. So that's the simplest way. So manifestation happens consciously. It also happens unconsciously because we have 60,000 thoughts a day and the majority of them are negative. Researchers are finding that 80 to 95% of your thoughts are a repeat of yesterday's thoughts and 80% of them are negative, which blows my mind.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah. And a follow up on that would be, how do you turn the negative stuff to the positive?
Yes.
But I want you to talk about the unconscious part of manifestation first, and then we can go there.
So that's the critical thing. The unconscious part is really what you're attracting towards you, because that mix of manifestation, so those unconscious thoughts that are playing out, then mixed with magnetism. So magnetism is your state of being and how you feel. And how you feel is going to get projected out in a vibrational frequency and put into what we call the quantum field. So think of the quantum field like a big lake of energy, and it's an invisible lake that everybody lives in. And you're putting energy into it and you're getting a matched frequency back to you based on the energy you're putting in. And so if you're having those 60,000 thoughts and most of them are negative, they're a repeat from yesterday. That's why you keep getting the same results over and over and over, because you're just putting out that frequency. So magnetism happens through your feelings, your thoughts, and your belief system. So it's a combination of law of attraction is just a combination of manifestation plus magnetism. And so in order to change your reality, you've got to reprogram your state of being to get a different reality.
Okay. So if I hear what you're saying correctly, then if people like, if they're trying to figure out, okay, I'm not quite grasping this in a practical sense, would it be somebody who is, in a positive state of energy? That would be that person that's bubbly and you want to be around them, and they're just there's just something about them. We all have that friend in our life. And actually, we have it as we're doing this podcast together. We have this positive, high vibrational frequency going on where we're both excited to be here
Yes.
doing that. So, and you can have it, obviously you can do that and the person doesn't even have to be in the room. But if they're in the room, then that's somebody, or you think about them, you have those warm, fuzzy thoughts about them, versus negative, where there's those people that's like, wow, that was really heavy. Wow, I don't want to be around that person. That would be negative, that negative feeling. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't like
Yeah.
I don't like the word negative.
Let's say we could say lower vibe.
Lower vibe.
Lower
Okay,
vibe.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to move away from the positive negative thing, and I keep forgetting what to replace it with. So we'll go
Yeah.
higher vibe, lower vibe. Okay, all right,
Yeah,
got it. Yeah, it works.
I like that you said that. And I often think about it as a state of consciousness. So you're moving up the state of consciousness. So when we're in a low frequency, the very, very lowest frequency is shame. So shame and guilt are very low frequencies. Then you move up the scale. Fear is a higher frequency than shame and guilt. And then we move into courageousness and all the way up into enlightenment. And so what you said is really important, because the way that you know your vibrational frequency is just how you feel. So super practically, you can just ask yourself, how do I feel right now? And you'll know, am I high vibe or low vibe? And if I'm low vibe, what am I going to do practically, actionably to change my vibe, even if it's just for a few minutes, because it will take repetition in order to reprogram yourself. So, and think about it this way for anybody listening. You don't all of a sudden go from I'm in total misery and life sucks to the next day everything's awesome.
Right.
It just doesn't happen that way. You put conscious intention into it. You take repeated actions, and then you get a different result over time. And so that's why it takes time to manifest things. And I think it's interesting to consider how, if it didn't take time to manifest things, because we have those 60,000 thoughts and most of them are negative, if you instantaneously manifested that, how awful would that be? You would actually be attracting all kinds of bad stuff your way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can go the opposite. And then sometimes, that time frame makes, it's the universe's time frame, right? So sometimes you really aren't ready to manifest that thing right away. Suppose you had a thought a year ago and you thought, oh, I want to become this thing, but you're not ready to be that thing yet. You have to go through these steps. So I'm glad you said that it takes time. And the other thing too that I was thinking about as you were talking was that we're going to vibrate at that lower frequency. It's just, that's life. It's going to happen. But what I heard you say is having those tools and tips in place in order to bring us out of that low vibrational frequency state and then continue to go higher and higher, so that our lows are actually higher than our previous lows, if that makes sense. So you're just trying to keep yourself higher, so that when you do get knocked down, it's not the lowest of shame and guilt. Maybe it's the low of fear, which is higher than shame and guilt. And I also want to follow up, and correct me if I'm wrong, all of this is has been studied and documented. Like, this is not just something we're making up, that, oh, this vibrational frequency thing. It's just they've studied that in a lab, and this is what they've noticed about shame, guilt, fear, enlightenment, bliss, happiness, and so forth.
Yeah, that's to me so cool with medical, technical, advancement, is that we can now start to show that a lot of the spiritual teachings that have been universal truths of all time can now be tested and shown to be true. So your thoughts become things, and they can measure the frequency of cancers, and they're very low frequency. Right. So we know that higher frequency creates higher vibrational poles, and it's impossible for two energetic frequencies to exist at the exact same time. So let's say you're in a state of fear. You can't simultaneously be in a state of gratitude or appreciation. And so that's where we go,
Wow.
okay, let's get into a state of appreciation. Even if it's for 2 seconds, you at least at that 2 seconds are eliminating the fear frequency.
Yeah.
And so you're exactly right. You can't strive, or well, actually you can strive. Let's say it doesn't make sense to strive for a one-sided experience. So, Sue knows my obsession with spirals. She sent me the coolest spiral ring.
Yeah. And I have the same one.
And
cool.
I'm obsessed with spirals. I have tattoos of spirals. And
So what's the significance of spirals then?
So you were just mentioning it. It's that you don't go all the time in an upward trajectory where it's just straight line. Like, oh, life is awesome. Everything's awesome. Business is great. Money's flowing. Sure, you can get into a state where you're in flow and it feels that way. It's always going to be your perception because it requires the downward part of the spiral to get to the next evolution of yourself. So it's unrealistic to think that you're not going to have the downward part of the spiral. You're going to have it. The thing that changes is that the downward part of the spiral, as you move up the scale of consciousness, will have you feeling more like, ooh, this is my next chosen challenge to grow into the next evolutionary part of myself. And, I've chosen business to be my upward spiral growth trajectory of spiritual evolution. I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. So motherhood is one of those things. Business can be one of those things, marriage, career. So we have a lot of different parts that are bringing us opportunities to get into a state of challenge so we can grow to the next evolution of ourselves. And you're always going to be attracting a matched frequency. So it's interesting when people say like opposites attract. Not true at all, because that's an impossibility. If you think about quantum physics, matched vibrational frequencies attract. This is why when people come to me and they start really rapidly growing, often relationships fall apart. And I would say fall apart in a way where it's the disharmoniousness of the resonance is no longer there, because the people are becoming different people. And that's okay. That's part of spiritual advancement. And so, this happens a lot. People will say, oh no, my friends have changed now that I'm on a personal growth path, or my partnerships have changed. And so if you're willing to let go of the resistance is the number one thing that keeps you from manifesting. If you're willing to let go of that resistance, you can manifest more easily and more quickly. And so just think resistance. Anytime you feel like you're in a state of resistance, it means that you're blocking the manifestation. So the reason that people don't manifest right away is resistance. So like you were saying earlier, if you have a thought that you want something, so we all have those thoughts like, oh, I want to have a successful business or a happy marriage. And if you've got the gap in between those two things, the reason it doesn't happen right away is because now you've still got some resistance built up from the past. So you've got to build momentum in the new direction. And your point of vibrational frequency wants to keep getting set on what you want instead of what you don't want. And most people, when they're upset, they focus on what they don't want, which is why it keeps recreating itself.
Okay, so when they have that resistance, I heard you talk about resistance. Is that for somebody listening going like, okay, how do I recognize this resistance? Do you think it's like a feeling that goes on, or is there some metric that you can use for that resistance?
Yeah. First, so my inner power formula to transform yourself, it's a law of attraction formula. It's a habit transformation tool. So it's just 3 steps. Number 1, recognize. 2, reframe. 3, repeat to reprogram. So recognize, reframe, repeat to reprogram. So you're recognizing how you're feeling, what's showing up in your world. Then if you don't like it, you're going to make reframes, conscious reframes, and you're going to repeat. Then you'll reprogram yourself. So resistance can look like, it depends on the situation, but when you're conscious and you go, oh, whoa, I'm impatient. That's a version of resistance. So if you're impatiently wanting something to happen, you're causing resistance, which is wild if you think about goal setting, because most people set a goal and then they beat themselves up for not accomplishing the goal as fast as they want, which is creating more resistance, which is pushing the goal away. So your manifestation is getting pushed away instead of being attracted to you because you're creating resistance. So resistance can look like impatience. It can look like anger or fear or resentment, anytime you're feeling a vibrational frequency that's in those
I
lower
was just ready
vibrational
to say,
frequencies.
yeah, the low
Yeah,
vibrational frequencies would be ones that where you would look for those areas of resistance. Yeah,
exactly.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. I'm so glad you mentioned about the timeline. So the other day, I don't know, it depends on when everything's coming out, but I just did a Wednesday wisdom with my podcast producer on screw the timeline. And how we
I
were
love it.
talking about how things don't always happen when you want them to happen. So setting goals are great, but sometimes you have to lose for some things. It just really depends on what it is. Like if I have to get a podcast out by Wednesday, like that's a deadline. I've got to do that.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah.
no amount of manifestation is going to make that stuff happen. But there are some other things like I want my job, I want my business to look like X, Y, and Z in this amount of time. Sometimes if you let that go. So I'm glad you brought that up, that you just
Yeah.
kind of have to let that go,
So
and hold that
can
loose.
we
Yeah,
dig here?
I'm
Because
gonna
this is
stop.
so
Yeah,
good.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Jake.
So
Yes.
you just sometimes want. That's the key right there. The way you feel about the wanting is what's going to either attract it to you right away or push it away from you and have it take longer. So, when we say sometimes things don't happen right away, it depends on the person, right? Things can happen so fast if
True.
you have no resistance.
True.
If you have any version of resistance, it will take longer. That's
True.
just how quantum physics works in the law of attraction. So the reason that the podcast gets out is because there's zero resistance from you. You just said it. There's a deadline. So in your mind, you're like, I'm certain it's getting out. I've already set the deadline. People are expecting it. And so you make it happen. Right. So if other things where it's more nebulous and it's more confused and there's less clarity and there's a lack of a plan, we create resistance. We go, I'm not quite sure how to get that. I know I want it. Consciously, I want it. Unconsciously, I'm thinking, I don't know how to get it. I'm not sure what to do. Will this happen? Do I believe it's possible? And then some things take longer to manifest. So let's say an example, like I'm on my way to manifesting a 7-figure business. So I went from food stamps to 6 figures. Mm-hmm. And then I'm just building up. And I've had my eye on 7 figures. For whatever reason, that's an arbitrary number in some ways. It's just like, hey, that's the next growth edge for me.
Right.
And it hasn't happened as fast as I thought it would. And the more I let go of the timeline, the faster it's happening. So when we let go, that's when you can attract more easily. It's not that you're letting go of the vision of it. You're letting go of the resistance and the timeline, because then you're not attached to the outcome or the timeline. And so I think it's also fun to think about examples where often we have this plan in our mind and it's very controlled. It's like, I want it to happen this way and this timeline. And then it happens so differently than you think. If everyone here listening thinks about one big thing they've manifested in their life, has it ever happened the exact way that you thought it would?
No.
Right?
I can say that. Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because, when it frees our brain. Honestly, if you think of something and you don't put the how to it, and you just allow that opportunity, that thing to come to you, then the method is so much more exciting. And not only that, it opens up the possibility to see other ways, like just see other opportunities or other paths that you normally wouldn't have seen. There's this great quote that says all things happen in perfect timing. I don't know who said it. Maybe I did. Maybe I made it up. I don't know. But all things happen in perfect timing. And when I remind myself of that, then when I really wanted that new job to appear the end of last year and it didn't, and then I wanted it to reappear in January and February, and wanting to make that thing happen actually pushed it out further and further. And then in my own life, all of a sudden a job appeared out of nowhere in a place where I wasn't even looking for it. And
there's the key right there.
I wasn't looking, but I had manifested a job like that. I actually had it on my vision for almost a year. Yeah. But it took a year's worth of growth for me and a year's worth in the path in order to get me to where I need to be. And I guess out of my story, just to encourage others, is if the job that I was manifesting last year happened last year, I would not have been in the right place as a person to be able to receive that job. So I
Yes.
think that's the other thing too, to think about, if we don't have something manifesting right away, think about that thing that you're manifesting and say, okay, is there something that I can think of along the way that maybe I need to do, or just like you said, let go of the resistance and just let that thing happen when it's going to happen.
Yes.
We talked before about manifestation, where there's the conscious manifestation, like, hey, I'm going to get a cup of coffee, and there are these things, or even me, like, for example, producing a podcast, you produce a podcast as well. There are things that's conscious because those are things you have to get done. You talked about the unconscious. I'm curious, should you, and is there a way to take the unconscious that's going on and bring it to the conscious?
Ooh, juicy question. My whole business is run from that question, really. So my favorite
There we
quote,
go.
yeah, my favorite quote of all time is by Carl Jung, and he says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So the whole goal is to get conscious, right? The more conscious you are, then you can consciously surrender and allow, which is what you were just talking about.
Mhm.
So you can notice and recognize, I'm in a state of resistance. Now I consciously choose to let go and surrender and allow. And I keep playing with that to reprogram myself to then let things come to me more easily. Now with conscious intention, so what you're talking about is, I would say 95% of us is run by our subconscious. So I could probably say, I don't know how to measure this exactly, but we could say that 95% of what we manifest is unconscious. And it's because it's coming through your subconscious system. Because whatever you're thinking about the most predominant feelings and thoughts and beliefs that you have, whether they're conscious or unconscious, is what's coming to you and getting magnetized to you. So that's what you're manifesting. And that's why it's critical to get conscious, because if you don't get conscious, you're going to just keep attracting the unconscious state of being towards you. And so, when people come to work with me, I love, when you look at the law of attraction in action, people who come to me are ready to change. Because I don't attract people who aren't ready to change, because I'm ready to give them action steps to help them grow and get to the next level of themselves. And so when people come to me, they say, I've tried everything. I'm stuck. I'm frustrated, and I'm ready. I'm ready to change. Show me the way. Right. And so that's a different state of being than someone who's stuck in shame and grief and doubt and fear and victimhood and going, I'm going to blame the world. I'm going to blame my ex-partner. I'm going to blame COVID. I'm going to blame, this financial downfall I had, whatever it is. And when you're in a state of blame, you're in a state of victimhood.
Yeah.
And I always teach people, you've got to remember that your outer world's a reflection of your inner world. If you don't like what's going on the outside, all you need to do is change what's within.
Yeah.
It's actually that simple.
So what's one step that somebody, if they're in this lower state, listening to you going, wow, I really want what she's talking about, but I'm not there. What's one thing they could do to help kind of like start the process?
First, tell yourself a different story, because you just said it. I really want it, but I'm not there. The truth is, if you really want it, you are there. So let go of the story, right?
Drop the change the narrative.
That you're not there. You are ready, and it's accessible to you at any point in time. So just you having that thought is already evidence that you're ready. I was just
ready to say, the fact that they're actually asking the question and saying, boy, I really don't like where I am right now. That's bringing the subconscious to the conscious.
Exactly.
Right there. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the law of attraction. So how can entrepreneurs, business owners specifically leverage the law of attraction to achieve their business goals?
Yeah, let's start with, and I know when I say this, sometimes people go, seriously? Like, that sounds so simple. Realistically, it's about small daily habits. Because remember, your subconscious is the storehouse of your subconscious belief system. So all habits is your subconscious training. So think of it this way. You get in the car, you go to drive the car. You don't have to retrain yourself every time how to drive the car.
Right.
Because you've learned it, you've repeated it. So now it's an autopilot habit. So now you just get in and you do what you want. You get where you want to go. You are trained to do that. So you've got to retrain yourself. And yes, it's exactly it. Small steps, big wins.
There you go.
That's exactly what it is. So you take one small step a day. So very practically speaking, you've got to start to retrain your energetic state of being. So this is why I have a daily program. So I have a Law of Attraction for Business School with daily lessons, because it's just like going to the gym. You're not going to go to the gym once a month and, train your biceps for 4 hours once a month and then be like, oh yeah, I have amazing biceps. That doesn't work that way. You've got to go daily. You've got to go regularly, consistently. And your mindset is the exact same. So in order to change your state of being, you need daily habits. So people at home on their own, I would say journaling is critical. Mm-hmm. Meditation is very powerful. The journaling, you want it to be a consciousness raising practice. So you want to be asking yourself questions. That's one of the best ways to recognize. So this is why in my daily Law of Attraction school, I have daily lessons with daily journaling prompts, daily meditation, daily affirmantras. And it's because it's training your system strategically to change. So it's so fun working with people where over the course, let's say, of a year, they are different people at the end of a year. Year 2, they're different people again. Yeah. And they're changing every single day because they're having new epiphanies, new breakthroughs, and new states of being, to the point where when you look back at yourself a year ago, you will go, wow, I barely recognize that person. I have such a different energetic state of being. And now I can keep up leveling my business as a matched frequency. It's just an outer world reflection of your personal transformation.
Oh, perfect. If somebody's not business minded, but they're listening and going, wow, there's a lot of positive energy here and I want to move in that direction, what you have also is for them too. You don't necessarily have to be a business owner. What I hear, the common thread is, you want to change. There's something that needs to change. And even if you don't quite know what it is, still move in that direction. Like when you sent the email to do your 12 steps to success, the business school, and I joined that, I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm starting a business yet, but the wealth of information that I gained, it started moving me in that direction. So now I can see, okay, I need this, and this. And then it turned around that it actually, attracted other things to me by doing that. So I just want people listening to think, you don't have to have a set plan there, but there's something inside when you quiet yourself. I love meditation, that you mentioned meditation and journaling, because both of those practices, as you said, allows the subconscious to become conscious, and you become aware that, hey, I'm actually wanting to attract something here. And even if you don't quite know what it is, start moving towards it and ask the universe to kind of just bring that to you or show you what that is that you're looking for. So I love it. I love it.
This stands out. Something you're saying, it's so important to point out, is that it might not be that you know what the tangible thing is, but you do know you want something different. Mm-hmm. Right? So you're ready to feel better. You're ready to feel more powerful. You're ready to feel more aligned. Those words might not come to you. The words that will come to you is, I don't want this anymore. I'm ready for something else, right? So I think back to the moment when I was on the floor crying and I made the declaration, I'm ready to have better relationships and make more money, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I had no idea where that would lead me. And I just took one first step. So the cool thing that happens is that when I say that manifestation formula, that I just tracked back what happened for me, and I go, hey, decide with certainty and clarity. That was that declaration I made on the floor crying. Then I took a step in the direction. The step that showed up was listening to podcasts. And then I never in a million years thought, oh, I'm going to turn into a podcaster. That wasn't the thought.
Yeah, me too. Right.
It was just like, oh, podcasts are free. And I am busy. I was in grad school with 3 kids. And, I was like, I can listen on the go. I started listening. One podcast led me to the next. And it just massively, radically started to transform my life. And I thought, I want to be a podcaster. This is one of the coolest things ever. But it wasn't like when I was on the floor crying, I was like, I want to be a podcaster and I'm going to build a 7-figure coaching business. Like, that wasn't in my mind anywhere when that happened. And so that's how it works. And that's the point of, decide with certainty and clarity what you want, take a step in the direction, let the universe bring you opportunities and show you the way. and trust that that will happen. And if you can really just right now, everybody just know that in the core of their being, every time something happens, you can just go, oh, cool. I wonder what this is going to show me or bring me next. And that reduces the resistance. So you surrender and allow. I teach Affirmantras in my book. And one of the ones I love is to, and I actually don't teach this one in the book, but I love saying, let go, let go, let go, let go. So, or let me be. So you say, I let go, I surrender, I allow, I let go. So in meditation, you want to just close your eyes and just say, let go, let go, let go. I let go of conscious and unconscious blocks that are holding me back from being who I choose to be. I let go of conscious and unconscious blocks that are keeping me stuck. I let go of unconscious and conscious blocks that are making me feel frustrated. Just let go, let go, let go. Then you invite, let me be love. Let me be successful. Let me be whatever it is that you want to be. Because we can say that with a full vibrational match in our conscious and unconscious where it's not creating resistance when we just say, let me be happy. If you're unhappy right now, you could just say, I let go of the unhappiness. Let me be happy. And just say that a few times and see how it feels.
See what happens.
Yeah.
With breathing too. So you mentioned affirmatras. Could you take a minute and just define what an affirmatra is for somebody listening who's not quite sure? And what would be a method for somebody to help them come up with their own affirmatras to help them?
Yeah. So the concept here is that most people use affirmations incorrectly. And so my book's called I'm a Money Magnet, the top 30 money-making affirmantras to manifest more. The reason I called it I'm a Money Magnet is because I started with that affirmation for myself when I was on food stamps. So every time I'd find money, I'd be like, I'm a money magnet. Everything I touch turns to gold. And I just get so excited, and so I started to create this connected, happy relationship with money instead of the one that I had before, which was like, I'm terrified of you. I'm stressed about you. I hate you, money. Why aren't you there for me? And so I started to create
more of you.
Exactly. Like, get drawn to me. I love you. I like you. I want to be a money magnet, right? I choose to be a money magnet. And so I just started saying it and playfully. And then as I was sucked into, and I say that, it was like, I just kept finding more and more about the law of attraction. And at first it was so scary, Sue, because I was like, I'm a scientist. Like, I am a research scientist earning my PhD. Am I really going to think about manifestation? This is so woo woo, Oh,
no, it's, you know what? It's not. I hate to stop you right there, but you know what? It's not. If we really think about it, manifestation, even if you don't realize that you are manifesting, it still works.
Yes.
I just have like a really freaky, I was listening to somebody's podcast, and on the podcast it said, hey, I can hear anybody right now listening to this podcast getting really excited and they're going to get a speeding ticket on the freeway. Right. So that was in the podcast, and I was sitting at home listening to it. Wouldn't you know it? And I'm like, oh yeah, wouldn't you know it? That would happen to me. Right. I'm sitting at home and I think this. And so I'm traveling from my home to Pennsylvania, and wouldn't you know it, I'm playing that. I was replaying that podcast. I was listening, and the host goes, yeah, somebody's probably going to get a speeding ticket listening to this because it was just such a powerful podcast design. And wouldn't you know it? Yeah, I did. I got a speeding ticket in Virginia driving at that time. So the point is, be careful what you manifest. Be careful what you say to yourself. But the affirmantras, we hear mantras, we hear affirmations, but putting together affirmantras.
Yeah. Okay.
I
love the wormholes. First, that's the power of the mind, right?
Yeah.
What you think manifests.
Yeah. So be careful.
So be conscious. Right? Be conscious. What do you choose to be a conscious, deliberate creator? So in that moment, and right when you have that thought, that's a perfect opportunity for a reframe. You go, oh, wait. And I like to just say, I destroy and uncreate that. I destroy and uncreate that.
Oh, I was just ready to ask, what do you do when you have that thought that you don't really want? Because we're going to get those out of the 60,000 a day, 80 of them are negative. We're going to get that conscious or subconscious thought that comes across us.
Absolutely.
So
You're human.
Again.
You're human,
Right. Say that again.
So you could just go, I love reframe. So I teach recognize, reframe, repeat to reprogram. So the recognize is you going, oh my God, I just had a thought that I don't choose to have anymore.
Right. I don't want a ticket.
Yeah. The reframe, I destroy and uncreate that. You can just say, I destroy and uncreate that thought. I destroy and uncreate that thought. And then just go, what do I choose to believe now? And just stay. And this is where affirmantras come in. Now you just choose to say, that you could be as playful or as woo woo as you want. Just like you're saying, I learned like woo woo works. I love woo woo, and it is grounded in science.
Right.
And so, depending on the spectrum of woo that you're on, you could say something really practical like, no, I choose to drive to my destination safely and happily.
Right. I do that all the time now.
So instead of getting the ticket, now you're focusing on getting there safely and happily. You could, if you're super woo, you could say, the universe protects me from tickets, whatever. It's the reframed energy. It's the consciousness. And, sometimes you might get the ticket. The point is you're training yourself to have different thoughts. And the crazy thing is, so affirmantra wise, you want to repeat, because we are habituated to have negative thoughts. Like we said earlier, 80% of negative thoughts a day, and you have tons of them. And that's wired into our system because we are wired for survival. We're always tracking our scene for threat. And so we're always looking for what could go wrong. So it actually requires that you reprogram yourself toward a state of looking for what could go right. I like to think, when we're in a state of fear, my acronym for fear is the future expectation of awful results. Future expectation of awful results. So it's like that, like, oh no, I'm going to get a ticket. That's a future expectation of an awful result because it hasn't happened yet. Right. So to reprogram yourself out of that, you just go like, okay, I want to be in a state of flow. Faithfully looking for opportunities to win. I'm going to faithfully look for opportunities to win, And so
I like that flow.
You just start
faithful. Oh my gosh.
Faithfully looking for opportunities
to win. Oh, I love that. Versus fear.
Just play with it, right? And you start reprogramming yourself. And what you'll notice over time is that when you then repeat these affirmantras. So an affirmantra, let's get back to that. So when we affirm to ourselves something that we don't believe to be true, we create resistance. So we can go back to remembering how we talked about resistance is the number one reason you don't manifest what you want quickly or easily. So when you affirm to yourself something you don't want, the point of affirming something to yourself is because you don't have it, right? You would never affirm to yourself something you already have. Like, I don't need to be like, we can't go with the copy. Let's say, I'm
a podcaster.
Yeah, exactly.
I already am.
I am a successful podcaster. You don't need to say that because you are, right? So instead, now let's say something you don't have that you want. That's why we use affirmations. The problem with them is that most people say things to themselves that their subconscious mind doesn't believe. So it kicks it out as being untrue. And it's like you telling yourself, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar, you're a liar.
Oh, yeah. Right? So an example would be like, I'm a multimillionaire. And you're really not, because your subconscious is saying, dude, you've only got $100 in your bank account. Exactly. So that's not going to be true. However, you can take that, reframe it, and say, I'm a money magnet. I am. What would be another? Well, okay, wait a minute.
This because
what would be another reframe for that? Because that's a common one. Hey, I want to be a multimillionaire. I'm a multimillionaire. That's a common, like, maybe if I tell myself that enough, there'll be other zeros added to my bank account, but it doesn't quite work that way. So
which is so obvious too that it's not true, because if you were in a room of 1 million people and you asked who wants to be financially free, 100% of the people would raise their hand, but not 100% of the people are financially free. So I'm a money magnet. I don't even teach people to say that unless it feels 100% true to them. So affirmantras are statements that your subconscious mind believes to be 100% true. So let's use your example. Let's say I am a multimillionaire. If you're not that and you don't believe it and you don't believe it's possible for you, you don't want to say that to yourself because you're creating resistance. So instead you use what I call starter statements. So I created in my book starter statements. So one could be, I prefer to be a multimillionaire. Your brain can believe that. Like, I prefer to be a multimillionaire. Of course I prefer to be I prefer to be a multimillionaire. I choose to become a multimillionaire. I am on my way to becoming. I am learning how to become. I feel myself attracting. It feels good attracting millions of dollars, things like that. So starter statements that your brain can go, yes, that's true. It doesn't tell your subconscious mind doesn't go, you're full of crap, Sue, right?
I love the starter statements. That is just so practical right there, for a reframe, rather than using I am, start with, I prefer to be.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. I have decided to be.
I have decided to be.
I am committed to becoming.
Right. Committed.
That kind of thing.
Decide.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Can you say, I want to be?
It depends on if
depends on what it is.
Feels desperate or if the want feels inspired, right? Because sometimes want is a state of lacking. So if you keep saying, I want a happy marriage, I want a happy marriage. If
Yeah.
if there's desperation behind it, then you're creating resistance.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting because I have a quote above my computer that says, wanting is about abundance and creation and requires no justification. So
There you
that's
go.
the positive end of
Yep.
wanting. You want the abundance and it's about creation because you need to create, you need to be in that creative state. And I love that it's not about justification. Like I don't
Yep.
have to tell anybody why I want to be a millionaire.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
just my
It's
own, or
yours to
why you
desire.
wanna, yeah, or why you wanna earn 7 figures, or why you wanna earn 8 figures, or why you wanna be a small business owner, or why you wanna be a W-2 employee. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah. I
matter.
love
It
that.
doesn't
That's
matter. So, Amanda, this is, I love to ask everybody the same question. What is one question or topic that you wish I would have asked about, and how would you have answered the question or expanded on the topic? As
it's
we're kinda coming to
yeah.
a close here.
It's funny to ask someone who manifests because I always think everything happens exactly as it needs to.
True. It's fine.
So I'm like,
Such a
hey,
that's
you
a
asked
legitimate
the
answer.
perfect questions. You asked me everything that needed to be said today.
I love that. I love that. So as we close, what is one small step that someone can do today that's gonna help them change their tomorrow?
It's going to sound so simple and it's perfect with small steps, big wins. If you do this every single day, so I want everyone here to set on their alarm an alarm today, and I want you to set it 3 times that says energy check-in. So
Mm.
energy check-in. And what you're going to do when you do this energy check-in is once that alarm goes off, so set it, in the morning, yeah, depending on when you're listening to this, just set it for 24-hour period 3 times and say energy check in. When that alarm goes off, check in with yourself. This is a practice to recognize your state of being. And then you just go, how do I feel right now? So the check in, how do I feel right now? Just check in with yourself. If you feel high vibe, awesome. Keep going on with your day. If you feel anything other than a 10 where you're like, everything is awesome. If it's an 8, just go, okay, I feel a little stressed. Okay, take 3 deep breaths. And as you're taking those 3 deep breaths, just let go. Just say the words, let go, let go, let go. Reframe your energy toward what you choose. So consciously decide, I have decided to feel better right now. I have decided to up level my vibe right now. I have decided to reframe my energy right now. Just, play with that. And then that's it. Go on with your day. And then watch what happens if you do that for 30 days and start to reprogram yourself. Small steps, big wins. That's how it works. And that's my inner power formula. You just go recognize, reframe, repeat to reprogram. And it takes reminders to yourself because
For
we
sure.
are habitual beings. And so, that would be a great action step that's very practical for people to take, that they can start to reprogram their subconscious state of being.
Oh, perfect. So Amanda, one small step for somebody listening right now, and they just want to start somewhere and they're really enjoying this conversation and you're high vibe, but what's the one thing that you would suggest to them for them to start to learn about you, or to, like, because I know you
Because
have a lot of things, like you have a lot of
yeah.
things to offer people. And so I just want them to focus on one thing.
Oh, that is tricky. Let's say because we talked about the book so much, they can get free chapters of the book. I am a moneymagnetbook.com.
Okay.
I am a moneymagnetbook.com. Of course, when they look that up, they will find everything about me. And I offer so many awesome things, like very low cost, actually. Like sometimes I'm surprised myself where I go, I trust, I'm a money magnet. I attract all the right people my way. And
Yeah.
my big life vision is to impact 5 million people through my company. And I really choose to help people transform their energy, their state of being, to up level the frequency of the planet and just have more fun, feel good,
Yeah.
attract awesomeness your way.
Oh,
So
I
yeah.
love it. Well,
So the book.
I'm thinking of your
Yeah. Yeah.
daily program.
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's a place to
If they
start
get
then.
chapters of the book, they'll get tapped into all of the stuff I offer, my
Oh, excellent.
podcast and all kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. How can people find you? I mean, I'll put it in the show notes, but
Yeah. Yeah, so law of attraction for business.com. Everything is there. I have a school, so I do a daily program. So law of attraction for business.school. And then I have a group coaching program as well for people who are like, want the VIP hand holding, hang out with me twice a week and the community twice a week live. So I have a group coaching program as well.
oh, I love it. Well, Dr. Amanda, thank you so much for the gift of your time. I love this, and
Thank
I
you.
always enjoy talking to you. So have an awesome day.
So fun. Thank you. Great way to start the day.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Small Steps, Big Wins podcast. I value your time with me, and I seek to make every moment count. In order to make lasting change in your life, listening is usually not enough. So I want to ask you, what practical steps are you going to put into action today as a result of listening to this podcast? Remember, any step, any action, no matter how small, starts your journey to a big win. And if you're not sure where to get started, reach out to me and let's have a conversation. Until next time, love yourself, then love others. Peace.